It's my last day of practice before the big test. Hello, truckers, drivers, and adventurers. I am the Killer Trucker in training, and we are now on week number 4, day number 2, and it is the last day of practice that I have before the big day. Tomorrow is my CDL test. It's not going to be until the afternoon, so about 1:15. Not about, that is the time. That is the time. I do have to get there an hour early. Went downstairs, checked my van, checked the tire. It seems okay. It felt firm. I didn't feel, I couldn't really push in it. Like yesterday, I was able to. I mean, it wasn't flat, but I had a little bit of give. And today it's just firm like a rock. Turned on the van to see if this the air low pressure signal came on, not to be confused with like air brakes. Tire pressure. It didn't come on, so everything looks okay so far. We'll see what happens after the drive, after the practicing is done today. Coming back, if the air is still in there, then I think we're okay. I think the low pressure may have just been a coincidence. What is going on today for practicing? I've got a feeling that I'm going to be getting a lot of practicing. The only ones that are going to be there today is me and the other individual that are testing tomorrow. Everyone else has either already tested or are going to test today, and they can't practice today. So it's only going to be 2 of us. And with the 2 of us, we'll have one vehicle, and we'll be practicing with that one vehicle switching off. I don't believe we're going to have 2. If we wind up with 2, that'll be interesting. Well, it'll be interesting because we'll be going round and round. We'll be going round and round and round, and after about 5 in a row, la 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 la. Hopefully not. I'm gonna take this day as seriously as I can take it, as much as I can take it. I want to be able to do perfectly on each of these skills today as I can. I mean, I absolutely want to get it down to a T. So let's see how I do. I'm going to go ahead and get ready and take off, and I will report back. Okay, so what I have set up here is a little Lego demonstration with an actual toy trailer that's not Lego, but it fits just perfectly. Got to be careful because when you rewind it, it has wheels that kind of go on. It's one of those old pull it back and it goes off. But anyway, so when making right turns, you have to come up like this, and your shoulder should not be lined up here in the middle, but over here where this center line is at, right about there. And then you start turning like this. And what you'll do, and this is not quite the scale, but you're going to be coming in like this. Your trailer is going to swing around, and it needs to clear this curb. Like I said, this is not the scale. It's not stale either. And then you would come over here, right over here, back to the right lane to close that gap, and then continue on your way. That's how you make a right turn. Now, let's say you wanted to make a left turn. You're going to come in like this, and you're going to introduce yourself. So you're going to pull out just like this, so that way you're in the middle of the lane here. And you can pretend that there is more roadway going that way. And then what you'll do is you'll turn like this. Your trailer will clear the left here. Hopefully there's not a car there. But like I said, this is not quite evenly scaled. But you're going to want to close this gap so that way a car doesn't try to sneak its way around you. So you're going to come like this and close that gap, right? And then when all 18 wheels are in the lane, you cancel your signal. But you'll be coming back this way, and you're going to want to signal to your right, so that way when it's safe to do so, move over to the right, because slow traffic drives on the right. Yeah. Well, I'm back, folks. Back from, I think I was out there for about 6 hours. Yesterday it was 5 hours. Today it was 6 hours. The instructor spent a little bit more time with me and the other person, where we're both going to be testing tomorrow. So just spent a little extra time with us. We had a bit more opportunity to do practicing. We did our coupling and pre-trip this morning. And this time I had my comrade test me on my pre-trip inspection, and I went around, and I only missed like maybe a couple of things, and they're just like minor things, like minor wording things. Like for example, when I was talking about the mud flaps on the tractor, I didn't say that they covered both wheels. I mentioned them. I mentioned that they're there and they're properly mounted and secured and they're not cracked or damaged, but I didn't say that they cover the width of both wheels. So, but it's like tiny little things like that, and there was just maybe a couple, but definitely not enough that it would have failed me or anything. So he says, "Nah, man, you got that. You're good." And then after that, we started doing our practicing for our backup skills, and I had 3 rounds between the time that we started and the time that we left for the day. The first round that I did it, perfect. No problems whatsoever. The second time, it was kind of meh. The straight line was fine. The offset left, I had some trouble on that, actually crushed a cone. And what I say about that is that when I was backing up on the offset, and you have to look back a few episodes with the paperwork that I was showing, but you're backing up at an angle, and you stop and you get out and look at a certain point to make sure that the cones are lining up just nearly outside of your mud flap. Well, I hadn't gone far enough, and I thought, okay, well, I'll get back in, pull back a little further, and then I'll start, my final turn in. Well, it's my second to final turn, because you have to get out and look a second time to see if that line of cones is pointing to your third axle. Well, when I got out and looked the second time, I noticed that the tandem wheels were very close to that cone. So when I started turning back, that's where I wound up hitting one of the cones. I don't know if I really crushed it. It was more like knocked it over and it just kind of fell over. It was a hat and it just eat, something like that. The important thing is I knew what I did wrong, and I know what to do if it happens again. If I get out and look a second time and I'm like really close to that cone, then what I need to do is I need to make more space on that side. So how do I do it? you pull forward in the direction that you need more space. Now, 2 or 3 seconds worth, stop, then turn hard the other direction until you see, until the tractor and the trailer are straight. Then you check your mirrors and see if you've got plenty of space. If not, do that again. Hard turn in the direction you need space for a couple of seconds, turn back hard the other direction, then check your mirrors, see if you've got enough space, and then you can back up. So that's what I needed to do on that one. And I've done it before on certain ones, but this was the first time to where the tandem wheels were awfully close to the cone, where when I was making that turn back in, the trailer just basically came in at an angle and knocked the cone over. But at least I know what to do on that. And plus, the instructor that was working with us for our practice sessions, he told me, he gave me this hint that in between the time that you check your mud flap and when you make that maneuver and then go out and look again to check to see if the cones are lined up with your third axle, he said it's 7 seconds. He counted it. So I thought, lucky 7. And it's funny because he doesn't believe in luck. He's like, what's luck? What's luck? So, but yeah, once you start that maneuver and you're easing it back, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, all the way to 7,000, and 7,000, well, 7 seconds. And you should be able to get out, look, and those cones should intersect. If you're to draw an imaginary line, it should intersect with your third axle on your tractor. And then that's when you start turning hard in the other direction to straighten up and back yourself in. So it was interesting. I've also learned from him that for every extra foot of space that you need, count 1 second. So if I look at something and I see that, I need to back up 1 more foot or 2 feet. If I need 2 feet, it's 1 1,000, 2 1,000. Boom. That's it. So that was helpful to know also. And then I did the parallel parking after that, and that seemed fine from what I could remember. We went to break, we came back, we did another round, so I got to do, on the third one, it was pretty much fine. There were a couple things that he did that he kind of directed me on, but I could have done it I know that I could have done it on my own, so, it's no big deal. But, yeah, he asked me, you feeling pretty confident? And I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident. I mean, I can go for another round if you want, but no, I'm confident. I'm pretty sure I can do it. So we had our lunch there, but right after the lunch, we had one practice session, or we finished up the practice session that we were working on before lunch, and that's pretty much it. I was supposed to go to an agility test today. The program director had approached me and my instructor and said that the person from Flatbed was going to reach out to us to grab me for the agility test, but they never showed up. Apparently that was going to be a thing today. I was going to be doing the agility test. So since I'm not, I'm guessing that I might be staying here at the hotel for maybe an extra day. I thought if I passed tomorrow, after doing whatever paperwork they need me to do, I thought I might be able to go home and, get that CDL license and stuff. And I don't think they're going to have me do the agility test on the same day as the test. They might. If they do it, it would be later on, but it's going to be in the afternoon, so I don't think it's going to be then. So my guess is that I'll have to stay here and do the agility test on Thursday. And if I miss something on Wednesday, if I fail a test, I'll have to be here Thursday anyway, because I won't be able to test again until Friday. And speaking of testing again, we did have one student from our class that failed the road test today. So he has to retake the road test, just the road test. He has to retake it on Thursday. So yeah, he passed the pre-trip, good with that. Passed the backing skills, although I was a little worried because I was watching him, and I was a little worried for him because it looked like he was struggling. You're only allowed to get out and look twice. If you do it a third time, it's an instant fail. You get 2 free pull-ups, meaning, pull forward to readjust yourself. You get 2 free ones. You can do extra ones, but it counts a point, basically. But if you need to pull up, back up, it's okay. But you get out a third time to get out and look, you're done. So he got it. So the fact that he passed the first and the second test, as far as the pre-trip and the backing skills, he doesn't have to retake those. He just has to redo his road test. And I don't know for sure, but I think he's going to be practicing on the road tomorrow, and then we'll test the next day. 2 other people from our classes testing today as well. They were waiting in the break room when I was getting ready to leave for the day. So I don't know if they have passed or not. So I might find out tomorrow. If they don't pass, then their name will be up on there's a grease board, or, there's a board, with the markers and stuff that you mark on, and you can erase it and stuff. If I see their name show up on Thursday, then I know that there's something that they didn't pass. For myself, though, and for the other individual, for the 2 of us that are testing tomorrow, we have to be there an hour early. So we test at 1:15, but they told us that we need to be there no later than 12. Going to be hanging out there for about an hour. Yeah, that's okay. I can bring my phone with me. I don't have to lock it up. I can bring my phone with me. There's a couple of parts with the air brake test where I need to use a stopwatch, so I can use my phone for that. I won't be able to record anything, but I can at least have my phone with me. So that'll keep me busy during my break a little bit. Maybe I'll play Minecraft or something, I don't know. Or I could bring my laptop with me and sit there and play Truck Simulator while I'm waiting. Actually, that would be kind of funny. Bringing the laptop and just playing Truck Simulator. Oh, what you doing for the hour? Oh, I'm just practicing my driving. Okay, so we are going to do something special in this episode. I had bought, and I did a review of it, this tractor and trailer. I bought this so that way I could practice my pre-trip inspection with it. You may think that's kind of silly, but it's not like I have access to a big size semi truck. So I can practice just like I was on a real truck. I would check from the front, go to the passenger side. I would have to visualize what's underneath the hood. There's nothing here. But basically work my way around, and I can even take this off and look at the 5th wheel assembly here, and I can, there's the kingpin right there, so I can go through the catwalk and all that stuff. Although the exhaust is sitting here, and the trucks that we're looking at, the exhaust is actually down here. But yeah, it gives me a visual where I can pretend that I'm walking around and doing my pre-test. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do, not pre-test, pre-trip. I keep saying pre-test. My pre-trip inspection. So I'm going to go ahead and do my pre-trip inspection with the miniature that I've got here. And then I will check the recording and I'll see what I missed. So I'm going to compare what I do with the sheet that Swift gave us for the pre-trip inspection. This tells us all the things that we need to check, all the things that we should be saying, and you know, there's the air brake test right up here. So this tells us everything that we need to know. This thing's about falling apart. You know, if I sneeze on it, it might actually disintegrate. Okay, let's go ahead and do the pre-trip inspection. So we've got our little figure here. That's going to be me going around. But first thing that we're going to do is we're going to chalk the wheels. So we're going to put this little Lego piece right there. This has got to be straight, by the way. Okay, so we're going to chalk the wheels. And then we're going to walk to the front of the vehicle. So we're going to walk to the front of the vehicle. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this around here. What we're going to do is we're going to check for our 3 L's, which is lights and leaks and leaning. So with the lights, going to look up here and take a look at the clearance lights up here on the top, making sure that they're not cracked, damaged, and that they are clean, and that they are the proper color of amber. We'll check our headlights, make sure they're not cracked or damaged. Then we're going to look under the vehicle and check for any type of oil, water, or fuel leaks. And then lastly, we're going to look to see if the vehicle is leaning to one side or another. If it's leaning, then it could be a possible suspension problem, tire pressure could be low, or there could be a load that is shifted. So that's why we have the trailer on here. Okay, and that takes care of the front. So now we're going to go to the passenger side of the engine compartment. Okay, so we are on the passenger side of the engine compartment. Now this doesn't open up, but we're just going to pretend the stuff is in there. Okay, so over here on the passenger side of the engine compartment, this is going to be a Detroit engine, which is what we're being tested on. First thing that we're going to find is the belt-driven alternator, and it is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, it's not damaged, there's no missing bolts, and the wires that are coming from the alternator, they are not cracked or frayed. There's no exposed wires coming from it. Also, the belt, it is not cracked or frayed, and when you push on it in the center, it has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play. Now we'll check the hoses that are running on this side. We're going to check to make sure they are properly mounted and secured on both sides, both ends, that there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts or damage. They're not cracked or damaged, and there is no leaks. And then we'll check the frame. The frame is not bent, broken, or cracked. damaged. There's no illegal welds or drill holes. Now, something that is not on this particular truck, but will be on the one that we will test, there are fender mirrors on each side. And if you've driven American Truck Simulator, you may have seen those. So we're going to walk around and we're going to check the fender mirrors, make sure that they are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked, they're not damaged, and they are clean. So we'll walk around here. Oh, by the way, when opening up the hood, which I would have done if I could open it, you unlatch it from both sides and you lift it up and you say, clear. So you pull that up. All right, so on the driver's side here, we will talk about our hoses. That this is going to be our water hose, water and air. We'll check to make sure that there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts, no cracks, no damages, and they are not leaking. Next, we'll be checking our fluids. We'll start with the coolant reservoir tank. It is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. It's not leaking. The cap is on there and it is filled to the proper level. We'll check the water pump. The water pump is properly mounted and secured. There's no missing bolts. It's not cracked, it's not damaged, it's not leaking. It is a belt-driven water pump. So with the belt, it's not cracked or frayed, and when pressing on it, it has no more than 3/4 inch of play. We'll go ahead and check the oil with the dipstick. We'll pull that out, wipe it clean, stick it back in, and pull it back out and check to make sure that it's filled to the proper level. And down here is going to be the power steering reservoir tank. It is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. It's not leaking. The cap is on there and it is filled to the proper level. And then back here behind the frame is going to be the air compressor pump. It is gear driven. It's properly mounted and secured. It's no missing bolts. It's not cracked or damaged or leaking. And then also in this area is the power steering pump. It is not, or it's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and it's not leaking. Then we'll go over here and we'll take a look at our steering linkage. But first, the steering linkage is going to go into the power steering gearbox. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not missing any bolts. It's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Then we got the steering linkage. It kind of comes down like this. Some places you have to name each of the parts. We're not going to have to do that. So the steering linkage is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. And there are no missing castle nuts or cotter pins. Now we'll go ahead and look at the suspension of the steer axle. The suspension has spring mounts, and there's two. They're properly mounted and secured, both of them. They're not cracked or damaged. There's no missing bolts. They're not bent or broken. They are holding leaf springs. They are properly mounted and secured, both sides. They're not cracked or damaged. They're not bent or broken. There's not one that's missing. They are not shifted and they're not scissored. There are U-bolts over here. They are properly mounted and secured. There are none missing. They're not cracked or damaged, bent or broken, and there are no missing nuts or washers. And also part of the suspension is the shock absorber, which is properly mounted and secured on both ends. It's not cracked or damaged, bent or broken, and it's not leaking. Now we'll go into the brake system. Starting with the hose, it's properly mounted and secured on both ends. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and it is not leaking. And that hose will go into the brake chamber. The brake chamber is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked, damaged, it's not leaking, it's not missing any bolts. That will go into the push rod and slack adjuster. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not broken, they're not loose, and there are no missing parts. Then, I'm going to take a nap. Then, on the inside of the wheel, and let's just do this. I'm going to turn it upside down here. But on the inside of the wheel here, by the way, the brake stuff is all under here, but on the inside of the wheel is going to be the brake drum. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. There are no illegal welds. There's no debris, and there's no oil. And then the brake linings, they are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged. They're not oil soaked, and they are not dangerously worn thin. Okay, so that takes care of the brakes. Now we're going to look at the wheel assembly right here. And we're going to remember ICD. So we're going to check inflation. So we're going to look at the valve stem first. The valve stem, it's not cracked, it's not bent. There is no air leakage coming from it. And we're going to use an air gauge, and we're going to check the tire pressure to make sure that it's filled to the proper level, according to the manufacturer. Next, we'll check the condition of the tire. We'll check, we'll make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and that there are no leaks. We'll check the tread, that it is evenly worn, and the tread depth. Need to make sure that is no less than 4/32 of an inch. Now we're going to go into the center here where the rim is at. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. There's no illegal welds. Then we'll look at the lug nuts. They are all present and accounted for. They're not loose. If they were loose, there would be rust trails or shiny threads. Then lastly, we'll go right into the center where the hub axle is at. It's properly mounted and secured, and it's not leaking. And that's going to be on the outside and the inside of the tire. Okay, so, Mr. Examiner, I'm going to go ahead and do a light check. If you could go ahead and assist me. Sure. All right, great. Our examiner is bald. Okay, Mr. Examiner, we are going to check the front lights. Going to go ahead and check the clearance lights up above. Are they working? Yep. Okay, we're going to check the headlights and see if they are working. Yep. And now we'll switch to high beams. Are they working? Yep. Okay. The left turn signal. Yep. Right turn signal. Yep. Four-way flashers. Yep. Okay, Mr. Examiner, if you could check the light on the side of the tractor. Okay. Make sure that door is shut. If you don't shut the door, they'll fail you. Okay, Mr. Examiner, I'm going to check my left turns, or I'm going to check to make sure they come on and they light up. Yep. Left turn signal. Yep. Right turn signal. He's not going to have to go all the way around. Yep. Four-way flashers. Yep. Okay. Mr. Examiner, if you can check the rear of the tractor for me. Okay. I'm going to check the tail lights. Yep. The brake lights. Yep. Right turn signal. Or left turn signal. Yep. Right turn signal. Yep. Four-way flashers. Yep. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and start the vehicle so I can check my reverse lights. Okay. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Press the brake. Yep. Great. Now I'll turn the vehicle off. Okay, Mr. Examiner, I want to check the front of the trailer. I'm going to check the clearance lights, make sure they turn on. Yep. Okay, if you can assist me with the side of the trailer. Okay. Want to check to make sure the lights come on. Yep. The left turn signal. Yep. Right turn signal. Yep. Four-way flashers. Yep. Okay. Mr. Examiner, if you can help me at the rear of the trailer, I want to check my ABS light. Okay. So the ABS light is your anti-braking system. So what I need to do is turn the vehicle on, one click, not start it. The light should come on and it should go off. Yep. Great. Mr. Examiner, if you can help me at the very rear of the tractor. Okay. So he's back here. I don't think this has any, yeah, it doesn't really have any lights back here, but. Okay, Mr. Examiner, the tail lights, yep. Brake lights, yep. Left turn signal, yep. Right turn signal, yep. Four-way flashers, yep. Now, folks, there is no reverse lights on the trailer, just so you know, so that's not something we have to check. Okay, Mr. Examiner, if you can join me in the cab, and we'll do our in-cab inspection along with our air brake test. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just remove this, just so we have a little bit more space here. So we're both going to be inside. Okay, Mr. Examiner, first thing I'm going to check is my seat belt. It's not cracked or frayed or torn. I'm going to check to make sure that it latches properly and unlatches properly. And also, if you could put your seatbelt on, because we will be moving in a few minutes. All right, and now I'm going to check my mirrors. We'll check my mirrors. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged, and they are clean. They are also adjusted to me. We'll check the windshield. The windshield is not cracked or damaged. It may be clean, it may not be clean, but we're going to check the wipers to make sure they're properly mounted and secured. And the blade itself, that it's not cracked or frayed, and that it's properly mounted. Now we're going to check to make sure that they are functional. So we're going to turn that on, and then we're also going to turn on the washer fluid. And so they come on, and it also cleans the windshield. So they are properly working. Now we're going to move down to the dash, and we're going to check the defroster and the heater. So I'll turn these knobs here, and I'll reach my hand over and check to make sure that the defroster is working, and then I'll check to make sure the heater is working. Now we're going to go ahead and spiral around. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I'll try to zoom in with the camera if I can. It's hard because it looks kind of dark. So we're going to spiral around from the defroster over to the steering wheel. Going to check my horn. Meep, meep. Then I'm going to check my city, or that's my city horn. Now I'm going to check my highway air horn. And those work. So now I'll be going down to the dash. And I am, okay, there's one thing that I forgot to do. But you can do this in a different order. So when I get into the cabin, after I check the seat belt, I'm going to do a safe start on the vehicle. So I'm going to make sure it's in neutral. I'm going to pull out the brakes, both the trailer, I'm basically setting them, both the trailer and the tractor parking brakes. And when I turn it on, the lights on the dash will come on along with the ABS light, and it will go off, and then the gauges will move into position. So we'll start that, and it's going to build air pressure while we're waiting. So now, since we're on the dash, we're going to go ahead and check our water temperature gauge, and it is at the proper level. The oil temperature, it is at the proper level. And we're going to check our voltmeter and check to make sure that it's between 12 and 14 volts. Next, we'll check our indicator lights. So I'm going to check the left turn signal, the right turn signal, four-way flashers. Then I'll check my low beams. Some trucks have a low beam light. Then I'll check my high beams. Okay. And now that I've done the dash, I'm going to think for a moment and see if there's anything that I missed. There's not. So I'm going to go ahead and do my air brake test. And the first thing that we're going to start with is the air leakage. So what I need to do is, oh, by the way, when I start the vehicle, I'm going to straighten out the wheels. I'm going to straighten out these wheels. Okay, so we're going to check the air leakage. In order to do that, I need to turn the engine off. And then I'm going to go ahead and push in the trailer and parking brakes. So that will unset them. Then I'm going to press on the service brake and watch for an initial drop. I'm going to press and hold it. And then after the initial drop, if you could time me for 60 seconds, it should not drop any lower than 4 psi for a combination vehicle. If you could go ahead and start now. And so it's going to be 1 minute. Okay, it hasn't dropped lower than 4 psi. So the leakage test is good. Now we're going to check the low pressure air signal for the air brakes. Going to go ahead and fan the brake. Going to push the brake repeatedly. When it gets to 60 psi, the low air pressure warning signal will come on and also display on the dash. So I'm going to go ahead and fan it down at 60 psi. Beep. Okay, so that test is successful. Now we're going to check our spring brakes, which is the trailer and tractor brakes. We're going to fan it down, and around 45 psi, both of those knobs should pop out either at the same time, or the red before the yellow, but never yellow before red. If it does that, there's going to be a problem that we're going to need to have checked out. So we're going to fan that down. Snap. Okay, and both of the spring brakes have pulled out or have popped out, so we're good there. Now we're going to go ahead and check our air gauge. So in order to do that, we're going to need to build air pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and rev the engine up between 12 and 1500 RPMs. So the low pressure warning signal will turn off as we get above 60 psi. At 85 psi, if you can go ahead and time me between it should reach 85 psi and 100 psi within 45 seconds. And if you can go ahead and time me now. So it usually takes just a few seconds. Okay, we've reached 100 psi. It is within 45 seconds. The governor has cut in at 100 psi. Now we're going to keep building air pressure, and somewhere between 120 and 140 psi, the governor is going to cut out. There's going to be a psh sound. We're going to just hold it for just a moment and then let go of the accelerator. And so it goes up. Okay, we've built up air pressure. So now, Mr. Examiner, if I can leave the cab momentarily so I can remove the chock block. Sure. Okay, so I'm going to get out. I'm going to remove that chock block and get back in. Have to make sure that you ask, because the minute you leave the cab, you're done. you can't go back inside. So you have to ask to remove the chock block. Okay, Mr. Examiner, we are going to check our parking brakes. So I'm going to go ahead and push in the red knob, and we'll keep the yellow one out so we can check the tractor parking brakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in drive, and then I'm going to do a tug on the trailer. I'm going to hold like this. So I'm going to do a tug on the trailer, do a tug on the trailer. Okay, it didn't move. Now I'm going to go ahead and push in the yellow knob, pull out the red knob, and we will check the trailer parking brakes, and we'll do a tug. Okay, those are good. So now we're going to go ahead and check our service brakes. That's that regular brake pedal. Remember, your door needs to be closed. So I'm going to push in both the red and yellow knobs to disengage the parking brake. And I'm going to pull forward at 5 miles per hour. Going to lightly put my hands on the wheel. And it should not pull to one side or the other when testing this out. And I'll be pressing the service brakes to make sure they work. So we're going to go ahead and move at 5 miles per hour. And then I stop. Okay, and the service brakes are successful. So at this time, Mr. Examiner, my air brake test and my in-cab inspection are complete. And if you can assist me outside with the rest of the tractor and trailer. Okay. Then he'll get out and come around. Now, if I miss anything on the air brakes, it's going to be the first 3 with Swift in Arizona. So you have to get the air leakage test along with the low pressure warning signal and the spring brakes. You can't miss those. If you do, it's an automatic fail. Some places you have to get the entire air brake system. If you miss any of those steps, it's an automatic fail. But once you leave the cab, you're done with the cab. If you miss something on your air brake test that you catch, you can say, Mr. Examiner, I'd like to restart my air brake test. And you can also look around and make sure you got everything in cab. Okay, Mr. Examiner, we're going to go ahead and check our emergency equipment. And the fire extinguisher, it's properly mounted and secured. It's properly charged and it's properly rated. Then I'm going to go ahead and there's a little lever here. I'm going to pull that out, and there's a compartment that opens here. I'm going to check, make sure that my warning triangles are in here. There should be 3 of them. And I'm going away. And I'm going to check to make sure I've got my spare breakers and fuses. And I'll go ahead and shut that. And then, Mr. Examiner, I'm going to go ahead and check my door area here. Check to make sure that the door opens properly and closes properly. I'll check the hinges, making sure that they're not bent or cracked, that they're not missing, the bolts are in place. We'll also check the door seal, the weather seal, to make sure that it is not cracked or frayed and that it is properly secured. And we'll also check the windows, that they go up and down. And we'll go ahead and shut that. We'll check our mirror here, that it's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and that it's clean. We'll check our light right here, that it's properly mounted. It is not cracked or damaged. It's clean, and that it is working properly, since we have tested it with the air light test. And also, I'll go back and mention that the clearance lights are working properly, functioning properly, as well as the headlights and turn signals. They're functioning properly, since we were able to test that. Now we'll look at the steps. They are properly, got to push on them, properly mounted and secured, and they're not cracked or damaged, and they are free of debris. Now we're going to walk back here to the catwalk area, so I'm just going to take that off there and lose my head, lose my hair, so that way you can all see what's back here. So right in this area here, we'll be checking our fuel tank, that it is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. There's no leaks. The fuel cap is on, and the fuel tank hangers are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged. Over on this side of the catwalk, right in here, is a splash guard, and it's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and it covers the width of the 2 tires. And then next we'll check the catwalk, which is right here. Checking both the steps and the catwalk. They are properly mounted and secured. They are not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged, and they are free of debris. And next, right underneath here, is going to be the drive shaft. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. It's not twisted, and there is no debris. Now there's going to be hoses that are attaching here. There's 3 of them. So now we'll go ahead and check the hoses here. We're going to check to make sure they are properly mounted and secured on the tractor side as well as the trailer side. The electrical line, there are no cracks or frays or exposed wires. And then the air hoses, the service line and the emergency line. There are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and there's no leaks. The hoses themselves, they're not twisted, and they are not hanging on the catwalk. Now we'll go ahead and check the front of the trailer as well as the back of the tractor. We're going to check the clearance lights. They're not cracked or damaged. They're clean and they're functional. And then also the reflectors on the back of the tractor here. They're clean. They're clean. They are not cracked or damaged, and they are clean. Now, Mr. Examiner, we're going to look at the suspension of the drive axle, which is this right here. First thing we'll check is the torque arm. Torque arm is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. We'll check the leaf mounts. They are properly mounted and secured on both ends. They're not cracked or damaged. There's no missing bolts. They're not broken. The leaf springs, they are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged, bent, broken. There are none missing, and they are not scissored or shifted. Then the U-bolts. They are properly mounted and secured, both of them there. They're not cracked or damaged, and there's no missing nuts or washers. And then the shock absorber. It's properly mounted and secured, both ends. It's not cracked or damaged, and it's not leaking. Now underneath here, as part of the suspension, are the airbags. So the airbag mount is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. No missing bolts. And then the airbag itself, it's properly mounted and secured. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and it's not leaking. So that is the suspension system. Now we're going to go ahead and check the brake system here. The brake line, it's properly mounted and secured on both ends. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and it's not leaking. It goes into the brake chamber, which is properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, or cracked or damaged. It's not leaking. There's no missing bolts. And then that leads us to the push rod and the slack adjuster. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not broken. It's not loose, and there's no missing parts. And then on the inside of the wheel there is the brake drum. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. It doesn't have any illegal welds. There's no debris, and there's no oil. And then the brake linings, they are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged. They are not oil soaked, and they are not dangerously worn thin. So as we'll check the wheel assembly here, and as we come out here, we're going to check the bud spacing, because there are two tires next to each other. Not these two tires, but they're the dual tires. They're right next to each other. So the bud spacing in between, there's no debris, and they are evenly spaced. Now on the outside here, we're going to do our ICD. Inflation. The valve stem, it's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not leaking. Oh, and the cap is on. And I want to go back and mention that the cap is also on this one. So you can always go back on the outside if you forgot something. With a tire gauge, I'm going to check the air pressure and check to make sure it's at the proper level according to the manufacturer. We'll check the condition of the tire, that it is evenly worn. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, or any leaks on the outside, and the tread depth is no less than 2/32 of an inch. Then on the inside here is the rim. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. There's no illegal welds. The lug nuts, they are all present and accounted for. They're not loose. If they were loose, there would be rust trails or shiny threads. And on the very center there is the axle seal, which is properly mounted and secured, and it's not leaking. And that would be on the outside and the inside. And I would check this axle the same as I checked this axle. So now we're going to go to the back of the tractor, and we'll first start with the mud flaps. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged, and they cover the width of the two tires. Now we'll check our lights and our DOT reflective tape. They're not cracked or damaged or frayed. They are clean, and the lights are of the proper color of red, and they are functional. Also, the side light over here is the proper color of amber, if I haven't mentioned it. Okay, and I mentioned that they are functional. Okay, that concludes the tractor part of the examination. So I'm going to lose my head and we're going to check the fifth wheel assembly. Okay, so we're going to look underneath the tractor here. As I do, I'm going to check the trailer frame and the cross guards. They are not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged, and there's no broken welds. You can have welds, they just can't be broken. The other parts, you can't have welds at all. That's why they're illegal welds, because they're not safe. Okay, now we're going to go underneath here and check the apron. That's what this sits on, or yeah, basically. So right underneath here is the apron. It's not cracked or damaged, bent or broken. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this off here so you can see what's going on here. So the skid plate, the fifth wheel skid plate, it's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. It's properly greased, and there's no missing cotter pins. And also, when this is connected here, there should be no space in between the skid plate and the bottom of the tractor. There should be no gap. We should not be able to see any light. Okay, now we'll check the locking pins. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged, and they are in the locked position. The platform is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. There's no missing bolts. And the mounting bolts are properly mounted and secured. There's no missing bolts. They're not cracked or damaged. Now we'll be looking at the kingpin, which is underneath here. The kingpin, it's not bent, broken, or cracked. And the locking jaws are these things right here. The C part right here that comes around, those are the locking jaws. The locking jaws are surrounding the shank of the kingpin. There we go. That is the fifth wheel assembly. There is another part of it. It'll be on the other side, and we'll get to that. So, also, something that I didn't mention in regards to the front of the trailer, there's no holes, there's no bulges, and there's no missing rivets. Okay, now we'll go ahead and move to the side of the trailer, and we'll start about here. This is where the landing gear is at. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged, and the landing gear is fully raised. Now we'll come to the side of the tractor. There's no holes, there's no bulges, there's no missing rivets, and the DOT reflector tape, just imagine it's there, is not cracked or frayed, and it's cleaned. The trailer light on the side is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. It's clean, it's functional, and it's the proper color of amber. I keep losing my head. Don't lose your head. Another thing we're going to check is the ABS light back here. It is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. It's clean. It's functional, and it's the proper color of amber. Now we'll check our tandem axle here, and we'll start with the suspension system. The suspension system back here typically has no shock absorbers and no airbags, so you don't have to worry about that. Oh, actually, not the axle, not yet. There is the sliding tandem back here, which basically slides the wheels. So the sliding tandem is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and it is in the locked position. The release arm is also properly mounted and secured, and it's not bent, broken, or cracked, and it is in the locked position. Now we can go ahead and check that tandem axle, and we'll check the suspension first. The spring mounts, they are properly mounted and secured on both sides. They are not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. There's no missing bolts. The leaf springs, they are properly mounted and secured. They're not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged. There's none missing, and they are not shifted or scissored. Ah! The U-bolts, they are properly mounted and secured. They are both there. They're not bent, broken, cracked, or damaged, and there's no missing nuts or washers. Okay, and no shock absorber, no airbag, so the suspension is good. So now we'll go to the brake line. The brake hose is properly mounted and secured on both ends. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, cracks, or any leaks. Goes into the brake chamber, which is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and it's not leaking, and there's no missing bolts. Goes into the push rod and the slack adjuster. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not broken, they're not loose, and they're not missing any parts. That goes into the brake drum. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. There's no debris, and there's no oil. And then the brake linings, which is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged. They're not oil soaked, and they are not dangerously worn thin. Now we'll check the tires, the dual tires, the bud spacing. There's no debris, and they are evenly spaced. Now the wheel assembly. First thing we'll do is we'll check again our ICD. We'll check the inflation. We'll check the valve stem. It's not bent, broken, cracked. There are no leaks. The cap is on. With the tire gauge, we're going to go ahead and check the tire pressure. And It is filled to the proper level according to the manufacturer. Now we'll check the condition of the tire. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, or any leaks. The tread is evenly worn, and the tread depth is no less than 2/32 of an inch. Going on in here to the rim, it is properly mounted and secured. It's not cracked or damaged, and there's no illegal welds. The lug nuts, all are present and accounted for. They're not loose. If they were loose, there would be rust trails or shiny threads. And then right in the center is the axle seal. It's properly mounted and secured, and it's not leaking. And that would be on the outside and the inside. And I would check this axle, the same as this axle. Lost my head, or hair, it was back there. I'll have to get it and not forget it. Get it and not forget it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and check our mud flaps. They are properly mounted and secured. They're not cracked or damaged. My hair is missing. And they cover the width of the two tires. And then on the rear of the trailer, looking at my lights and reflector tape, they are not cracked or damaged or frayed. They are clean, and the lights are the proper color of red, and they are functional. Looking at my trailer door, there's no holes, no bulges. The hinges are in place. They're not bent or broken. There are none missing. The handles, the door handles, they are properly mounted and secured. The handles, there's none missing. They're not bent or broken. The door seal is in place. It's not cracked or frayed. The door tie is not missing. It's properly mounted. Okay, and then Mr. Examiner, I would check this side the same as I would on this side, with the exception of what is different, and that's what we're going to check now. Now, some trailers have the crank handle on this side, and sometimes it's on the other side, but most of the trailers we have at Swift are on this side. So the crank handle, it's not bent or broken. It's properly mounted and secured, and it is in the stowed position. And then over here with the fifth wheel assembly is the release arm. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, or cracked. It's in the locked position. And the this is the one I keep forgetting. Oh man, it's like clamps or something. Shoot, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, there's another thing there, and that's the one I always forget. So we'll get back to that unless I can remember what it is. But it's in the locked position. It's not the locking, secure clamp, clamps, something clamps. It's properly mounted and secured, and it's not bent, broken, or cracked, and it's in the locked position. It's like an S, like secure clamps or something. And lastly is the exhaust over here. It's properly mounted and secured. It's not bent, broken, or cracked. And it's not leaking. If it was leaking, there would be soot. And that concludes my pre-trip inspection. I hope you enjoyed that little segment there, the pre-trip inspection. I know in previous episodes we were kind of going through it a little bit, but we didn't go through the whole thing. But when I got this miniature, I thought it would be, a neat little thing to actually do the whole pre-trip all the way around. So you're getting an idea from me, and then whatever I miss, we talk about it. Now keep in mind that what I'm doing here is with Swift and with the state of Arizona. Other carriers or CDL schools in other states may require something different or something a little more. They're all basically the same, but some want you to have your seatbelt on and have your examiner put the seatbelt on, and if you don't, it's like an automatic fail. Some say that the air brake test has to be 100% or it's a fail, whereas with Swift and I guess the state of Arizona, out of the brake test, there's like three things. The first three things you can't get wrong, but anything else you can miss. So it's all really different. But as far as Swift and Arizona goes, what I just did for the pre-trip is what they're looking for. So hopefully that will help. And if I ever get time, we can go back to the little picture book and stuff. And hopefully I'll have better copies of that. Well, I'm going to see if I can't get some scans or something, because I got to turn that book in tomorrow. But if I can get some colored scans of it, then we'll have a copy and we'll have something a little better to work with in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because there's a lot of great stuff here on the channel, and we'd love to have you as part of our community. And of course, that notification bell so you get notified of new content uploaded to the channel, as well as, hey, the thumbs up and the comments and that whole algorithm thing with YouTube. You know how it is. But I much appreciate it. And we will see you on the next episode tomorrow. Test day. We can do this. We can do this, folks. Have a killer awesome trucking day.